been Osar with Fitness Education Seminars. Welcome to this edition of Fitness Insider. We've talked about the rotator cuff and how during certain functional patterns such as pushing and pulling, specifically pushing, the scapula must be stabilized and the rotator cuff functions to hold the head of the humerus inside or on top of the glenoid fossa. The goal of any rotator cuff exercise is then to teach the rotator cuff how to manage and stabilize the humerus inside the glenoid cavity. Okay? Now, a lot of times we see in exercises, especially rehab exercises, a lot of this type of exercise. The problem with some of these exercises is if the humerus is not centrated into the socket, as they perform these exercises, it just jams the head of the humerus. You can sort of see my humerus coming forward here. So it strengthens the rotator cuff dysfunctionally two ways. One, it allows the rotator cuff to function and pull the head of the humerus forward. The goal of specifically the subscapularis is to hold the humerus back in the socket. So we want to perform any rotator cuff exercises with that in mind. The second problem with a lot of rotator open chain exercises like this is the scapula is not stabilized where it should be. So in order to make maximum benefit of any rotator cuff exercise, you want to create proper centration of the scapula against the thorax before you create rotation of the humerus. The wall rotation exercise I'm about to show you is a great way to encourage both proper function and centration of the humeral head, but also the important scapulothoracic articulation. And that's really the key to improving rotator cuff function, is to improve the alignment between the humerus and scapula. Let me show you what that looks like. I'm going to stand about a foot away from the wall. I'm going to place my forearms on the wall. And as I place my forearms on the wall, you can see how it sort of centrates and brings my scapula down and around the scapula. I'm thinking about wrapping around. Okay? So in that position, once I get into that position, now I'm going to create rotation of my trunk around a fixated humerus. So I'm actually taking the scapula and moving it around a fixated humerus. Sort of like when we're crawling as children, we develop the rotator cuff function by moving our body over that fixated limb. So this is why this exercise becomes so valuable. Let me show you how it looks. I'm going to sit down on my shoulder blades, activate my serratus, put my palms flat against the wall. What I'm going to do is lift up one arm and slowly rotate it back to the wall. But again, the work is being done by the stationary arm. I keep centration here of my scapula. I keep centration on my rotator cuff and my humeral head, and I rotate and come back. Rotate and come back. Making sure the entire time that I'm keeping that scapula centrated and the humeral head rotating around, or I should say the glenoid cavity rotating around that humeral head. If I'm cueing somebody, I'll actually palpate the humeral head to make sure it stays centrated in the socket. I also cue them through the serratus to make sure when they're in this position, they keep that serratus activated to pull that scapula down and around the rib cage and keep that alignment between the scapula of the thoracic and then that glenohumeral alignment. So to recap the concept, we want to centrate the scapula on the thorax, and we want to centrate the glenohumeral joint, the humerus inside the glenoid cavity. That's how you create proper activation of the serratus, proper activation of the rotator cuff, and you start to improve people's overhead function and pushing, pulling function by maintaining centration of both the scapulothoracic articulation as well as the glenohumeral articulation. I hope you found this information useful. Feel free to check out our other videos at Fitness Education Seminars, and we'll catch you next time at Fitness Insider. Have a great day.